Carson, it's been a little while. We're back. I think today's topic is something that I'm very excited about. I built an online course about how to do good prospecting, and I did creative writing in college. So I really love the idea of reaching out cold to people, trying to find a creative way to get on their mind. So it's the topic, as you can probably guess, is prospecting. What do you do? How do you budget time for it? How do you make sure you're doing it? Everybody has to do it. You need to make sure you're constantly reaching out to new contacts. What's your strategy? How do you go about your prospecting?
Jeff, it's a fantastic question, and I really look forward. I know some of your philosophies on it, but really look forward to hearing your thoughts as well. I don't purport to be the expert in prospecting. I know that there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So I think the key element is that whatever your process is, you've got to focus on the people element. And also, how can you fine tune the process? We can control very few things when it comes to sales sometimes, but we can definitely control the quality of our outreach. So what does that messaging look like? We can control the quantity of outreach. So how many people are we reaching out to, engaging? And we control the consistency. To your point, I think it's really critical that we are carving out dedicated time to prospect. And you don't just pick up a new book of business or a new set of accounts and reach out to 5, 10 people on one day and then you're done. I think where a lot of people may struggle with this is that you make an initial effort to do some prospecting and do some outreach. Maybe you reach out to 5, 10, 15 people in an organization and you strike out, or you get one response, and it's hard to gain momentum around that. So again, that's where I stem off to what has worked well for me over time. I've been very fortunate because in my organization, I've been heralded as a top social seller, and it's been because of prospecting and creation of relationships. I worked at a very small consultant firm years ago, and I had to leverage social in order to reach out, cold outreach. I had no brand logo on my back, and I was trying to set up meetings with cold prospecting. And what's helped for me is not only reaching out to the influencers, but reaching out to the influencers of influencers. You're not always going to get into the C-suite right out of the gate. But if you're able to build some momentum to swarm some of the VPs, the directors, some of the prominent players in the organization that are influencers of influencers, you'll eventually get any relationship that you want in that organization. I mean, the most prominent organization that I've supported in my time as a seller, I reached out to over 500 people in that organization. I created well over 220 first-degree connections on LinkedIn, and I probably talked to 100 or so of them on a pretty regular basis. And so when you look at it, it's a probability game. In my sales fundamental and philosophy wheelhouse, people and process are paramount. And so I really focus on the people and the relationships, staying top of mind with social. So, create the relationship, but find ways to meaningfully engage. So it's not just reaching out and trying to get a meeting. That is one important element. But another element is some of the social posts that you leverage. How are you staying top of mind with social? That's why I engage from a first degree connection perspective. I also, leverage resources, set up webinars, send newsletters to folks just to let them know what's top of mind and try to engage in a meaningful way so I can learn from them, but also so I can bring resources that they're entitled to, which is why that messaging piece and the quality of messaging is so important. Because over time, what I've seen is even the clients that I've been trying to break into, even if they do not respond to my initial outreach, they don't respond to secondary outreach, they don't respond to invitations to different events or things of that stature, maybe they send something back on a webinar, or maybe they send something back, they show up on an event that I've done after 2 or 3 years, and then that's when the deal actually ends up happening. So over time, it's kind of like investing in the stock market. Statistically speaking, if you invest in the stock market and you keep your money there for 20 years, you're statistically guaranteed to make money. And it's the same approach in selling and prospecting. If you continue to invest in these relationships, your probability of not only creating meaningful relationships with those organizations, but also ultimately winning meaningful deals and partnerships, the probability is going to increase to its optimal amount. So that's always been my prospecting philosophy, is focus on the quality of the messaging. I'm up to over a 40% acceptance rate on LinkedIn with the messaging that I use today. Quantity of outreach, so total number of touch points, but also the types of touch points. Don't just send cold outreach. Don't just make the phone call. Try to employ a lot of different methods. And then finally, consistency. Scheduling time, even if it's just 30 minutes once a week. A lot of times, if there's a meeting that I'm on where I'm not the one who's speaking, or I'm not the one who's, I'm not far from the smartest guy in the room. Maybe I'm spending some time multitasking and prospecting. Try to carve out some time here and there, because those are investments into relationships and ultimately pipe and into your results. What about you, Jeff? I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think everything you said I align with. There's maybe some other things that I would add to that. For me personally, I don't necessarily schedule time to do it every week, so that's an area where we differ. What I prefer to do is just use tasks within Salesforce, our CRM, to just make sure that the people that I'm trying to get in touch with, that I'm following up with a regular cadence, and I'm trying to get to them through different channels, because some channels are more cluttered than others, or you got to find someone at the right time in the right place. So I'm actually just kind of more on a day-to-day, getting a little bit of it done every day. And that's just a style thing. I don't know that it's right or wrong to do it one way or another, as long as you're doing it. So for me, that's the way that I make sure that I do it. As far as my style, I guess this is an area where I often differ from other kind of thought leaders in this space, because my style is super high touch, like very high level of personalization. And my whole philosophy on this I call weirder than Waldo. And the reason I call it weirder than Waldo is because you probably remember, Where's Waldo growing up, and you're trying to find that guy in the book, and he's super nerdy looking, and he's wearing this red and white striped sweater and these big glasses. And, long story short, he's really hard to find, even though he's really weird. And the point is that if you want to stand out from the pack, you need to be even weirder than Waldo. You need to really be like a peacock. And so I try to figure out a way where I can identify a shared value with my prospect. It could be something like mentorship, if we both do like the big brother, big sister program. It could be an initiative that they're working on, that they're posting about. It could be all sorts of things. I recently saw a couple prospects of mine were listed as, like diverse executives of the year within their industry. And, that's a huge honor. Not a lot of people necessarily find that out and, recognize those people for that type of honor. And, anyway, Carson, the point is I try to, it's very high touch, so I can't get into like 500 people in an account, because it takes up a lot of time. And that's the thing is, there's a legitimate debate within this industry, which is like, how do you find the right balance between reaching out to enough people, right? Because, you only need one good contact to be able to get a good conversation going, versus the quality of the outreach and like how much time you're researching to be able to write like a really good quality message. I don't know the right answer. I've been tinkering with this a lot during my career. I've had good success with like the high touch, time intensive approach. I don't reach as many people, but I tend to at least get on their radar, which is kind of another goal in and of itself. So I appreciate your perspective on this, because I think I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer, but I think it's always good to just see what people are doing in this space.
I would agree. And I think this is actually one that I would throw out there to the masses. I'd love to get the public opinion on this, because I would agree that if I'm looking at a specific influencer that I know I need a relationship with, I'm doing exactly what you're saying. And I'm looking them up. I'm seeing what are the personal insights that I can draw, or any, maybe parallels where, there is an impetus for a connection there, right? If they are a thought leader, if they are, known for something specific, I want to know more about that, right? And so going in under that pretense. However, if I'm just getting a brand new book of business, I've got, anywhere up to 100 accounts, I'm going out there and I'm trying to find some of the key influencer titles and influencer of influencer titles, and I may just try to find the messaging that gets me the best probability of success. So I think both methods can work very well, and that's why I would never tell somebody how to prospect. I think it's important that we focus on the elements that we can control and what are you trying to drive? What is the desired outcome? That I think will inform your process.
Awesome.